Good morning. Right, today I am still in the City of London cemetery. Now I come up here often to visit my brother who's buried in here, as you probably all know, people who watch my videos. But I'm not here to visit my brother today. Well, I am, I will visit him. But I'm here to do a video on someone who had an extremely sad life. Extremely sad, as you'll hear shortly. And that person is Joseph Merrick, aka the Elephant Man. Now Joseph Merrick, he was fine until he was 5 years old, and then his body, with some disease which is still not actually 100% known to this day, according to my research that is, his body started to deform. And as time went by, his deformities became worse and worse. But what I shall do is, I'm in the crematorium section at the moment, which is where his final resting place is. And the interesting fact, actually, this section of the cemetery, which is now the crematorium where people have their ashes scattered and buried, it's directly over the original second-class burial ground. So underneath all these ashes are actual burials, unmarked graves, which are still there today. You don't realise as you're walking along, you're walking over thousands of Victorian graves. But to look behind you, you wouldn't realise. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll spin you around, we'll have a little quick look around while I'll tell you a little bit about Joseph Merrick.
Joseph Carey Merrick was born in Leicester on the 5th of August 1862. By the time he reached 5 years old, his appearance began to change. His lips began to swell, his skin started to thicken and change colour from its usual pink to sickly grey. A mysterious lump began to form on his forehead and a sack of flesh formed on the back of his neck. As he grew older, his disfigurements began to move down his body. Both of his feet grew abnormally large. His right arm began to grow increasingly deformed, while his still normal left arm highlighted his transformation into what the world would perceive as a human monstrosity. Medically, nobody understood what caused his condition. Even today, his precise condition remains mysterious, as DNA tests on his hair and bones have come back as inconclusive. Without medical guidance, his mother came to her own conclusions, recalling an incident during her pregnancy when she went to a fair. An unruly crowd of people pushed her into an oncoming animal parade. An elephant reared up as she was briefly caught underfoot, frightened for 2 lives. She told this story to young Joseph, explaining that this incident had caused his deformities and the pain that sprung from them. His mother, with whom he was close, died of pneumonia when he was just 11 years old. Tragically, even amongst all of his other troubles, he called her death the greatest misfortune of my life. It was around this time that he quit school. With the other children teasing him, coupled with his mother's absence, was too much to bear. 18 months after his mother's death, he acquired the evil stepmother. He later wrote, "She was the means of making my life a perfect misery." His father withdrew affection, which basically left Joseph totally alone. His stepmother demanded that he should be bringing home an income, so at 13 years old he worked at a cigar rolling shop. He worked there for 3 years before his worsening hand deformity made it impossible for him to fulfill his role. The final nail came when one day his frustrated father severely beat him and Joseph left home for good. His uncle heard about his homelessness and took him in, but after 2 years his uncle could no longer afford to support him, so he found himself homeless once again. The now 17-year-old boy set off for the Leicester Union Workhouse. There, Joseph Merrick spent 4 years with other men whose ages ranged from 16 to 60. He hated it and came to realise that his only escape might be peddling his deformity as a novelty act. He wrote to local proprietor Sam Torr. Torr agreed to take Joseph on tour as a travelling act, and in 1884, billed as half a man, half an elephant, he began his freak show career. He toured Leicester, Nottingham and London. That same year, Joseph switched management when Tom Norman, an East London shop owner who displayed human oddities, took him in. Tom would stand outside beckoning revellers inside to view what was called a freak show in those days. At various times it included a troupe of little people, a man in a trance, John Chambers the armless carpenter, and the world's ugliest woman. Now he had Joseph Merrick, who was given the name the Elephant Man for the first time. Norman's shop sat just across the road from the London hospital where Dr. Frederick Treves worked. Curious, Treves went to see Joseph by appointment before the shop opened. Horrified but intrigued by what he saw, Treves asked if he could take the Elephant Man to the hospital for examination. Over the course of a few visits, Treves took some notes and some measurements. Eventually, Joseph got tired of being poked and prodded in the name of science. Treves gave Joseph his calling card and sent him on his way. By this time, freak shows were falling out of favour. Police started closing down shops on account of morality and decency concerns. Just as Joseph was finally making money, he was shuttled off to continental Europe in hopes of finding more lenient laws. In Belgium, his new manager stole all of his money and abandoned him. He boarded a ship to Harwich and then a train to London. He arrived at London's Liverpool Street station in 1886, exhausted and homeless, asking strangers for help to get back to Leicester. The police saw crowds gathering around a dishevelled man and detained him. One of the only identifying possessions he had on him was a card given to him by Dr. Treves. The police called him and Treves immediately picked Joseph up, took him to the hospital and made sure he was washed and fed. After another examination, it was determined that Joseph now also suffered from a heart condition. Treves concluded that the 24-year-old had only a few years of life left in his deteriorating body. In the hospital basement, 2 adjacent rooms were specially adapted for him. There was access to the courtyard and no mirrors to remind him of his appearance. Over his last 4 years spent in the hospital's care, he enjoyed his life more than he ever had before. Treves visited him almost daily and became used to his speech impediment. Thus far, Joseph had never met a woman who didn't cower at the sight of him, so the doctor arranged a meeting for him with a young, attractive woman named Layla Naturin. The meeting made Joseph instantly emotional. It was the first time that a woman had smiled at him or shook his hand. Despite acquiring some semblance of a normal life in his last years, Joseph's health steadily declined. The deformities on his face as well as his entire head continued to grow. A hospital employee found him dead in his bed on 11th of April 1890 at just 27 years old. But the autopsy revealed a surprising cause of death. Joseph Merrick died doing something that many of us take for granted. He died from asphyxia and had suffered a dislocated neck because he had tried to sleep lying down. Joseph Merrick's skeleton was preserved at the Royal London Hospital as a scientific specimen. However, his soft tissue was buried elsewhere. Nobody really knew exactly where his remains lay until 2019. Joe Viger Mungovin, author of Joseph, The Life, Times and Places of the Elephant Man, claimed to have discovered the location of his burial to be in an unmarked grave in the City of London Cemetery and Crematorium, which is where we are today.
Well, that's all the information I could get on Joseph Merrick. Now, as you can see, this place is absolutely vast. Now, as I said, also all this you see under here, under my feet, is all second-class burials, unmarked graves, and the land has been reused. Now, his final resting place is marked by a plate on the ground. Now, there are various other people here that also have their names immortalised by plates on the ground. But Joseph Merrick's plate on the ground has been proven to be an exact, accurate representation of exactly where he is buried, whereas the others are basically depicted as somewhere in this area. But when you see this, Joseph Merrick, well, he's soft tissue anyway, because as you know, his skeleton was kept in the hospital for training new doctors, new nurses. But what I shall do is I shall spin you around and we'll go and have a look at his final resting place together. Right, now it should just be over here. Here we go. It's right in front of us now. There you have it. Joseph Carey Merrick, 1862 to 1890. That is a final resting place of Joseph Carey Merrick, aka the Elephant Man. And he also has a little plaque here in the rose garden. Well, that was the final resting place of Joseph Merrick, who had an extremely sad life. He wasn't even really given a chance at life. And those people that knew him, some people that knew him, tended to abuse him to make money, which I think is quite sick. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content, then maybe consider subscribing. If you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell. That way you will be notified every time I upload a new video. Right, that's me, Darren, from the City of London Cemetery and Crematorium. I'll see you again soon. So bye-bye for now.